Today we're going to be talking about 8 rules that all beginner quarterbacks need to follow. Now, rule number 1, as a beginner quarterback, please do not hold the ball up by your ear. Guys, I get the argument, oh, well, if you hold the ball up by your ear, you could go straight back, then straight over the top, and you keep your elbow up. Guys, that's not what keeps your elbow up in your throw. We're going to talk about that in a second. But guys, you look at all 32 NFL starters, not a single one of them holds the ball any higher than probably this like right pec position. A lot of guys hold the ball down here because that's not what gets the ball up and over your head. If you're up here like this and you just separate and go straight to 90, the problem is that when your hips rotate through, that ball can sometimes pull behind your head, putting a ton of stress on your arm and make you lean subconsciously out of the throw, which decreases your accuracy. Now, again, everybody says, well, hold it up higher so your elbow could get up higher. Guys, well, how do you explain the people that hold the ball low and can actually get their elbow up even with their shoulder when they release? And it's from rotator cuff strength. So if you have a problem with a low elbow, don't just lift the ball up. Let's work on strengthening my rotator cuff. And if you guys want some exercises to strengthen your rotator cuff, just post in the comments below. I'll be happy to send you some free ones from our YouTube channel. Now, rule number 2 is a beginner quarterback, respect the position and respect the amount of work that goes in to playing the quarterback position. We get a lot of questions all the time on this channel, comments, DMs, whatever it is, and people will say, oh, well, coach, I'm a sophomore in high school and I want to try quarterback, or coach, I'm a 7th grader, I want to try quarterback. And I'm not saying that's impossible to do. You just got to give the position the respect it deserves. A throwing motion, a throwing sequence is very, very hard to develop. Guys, if you have a bad habit with your throws, it takes 1,000 reps to break that bad habit. And it will also take 10,000 reps to master a certain skill. So you need to understand that there's a ton of reps that go into this position and being successful at this position. Don't just think you're going to walk into quarterback and it's going to be a cakewalk like maybe some other positions. You'll just be able to start, play, and then be able to roll. It is insanely hard. It's insanely challenging. It's the hardest position in all of sports. So if you know that going in and you structure your workouts towards that, you're going to be way better off. Now also, fellas, if you are a quarterback and would like a daily workout schedule that you can follow to get in your 1,000 reps, your 10,000 reps, check out that very first link in the description below for our elite quarterback training package. What you'll get access to is 2 months of daily on-field workouts for QBs and gym workouts for quarterbacks, because quarterbacks have to train differently than all positions on the field in the gym. We break down the exact sets and reps. Hey, in the gym, you're doing this exercise, 3 sets of 8, whatever it is, and we give you a video example of each exercise, and we do the same thing for the on-field portion of the workout plan. So guys, if you want some more information on that, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. Now, rule number 3 as a beginner quarterback is you have to focus heavily on strengthening your legs and your core in the gym, because that ties directly into your throwing motion or having good throwing mechanics. So as quarterbacks, guys, we're rotational athletes. Whenever we throw a football, we want to try to rotate from my hips, rotate from my core, and what allows me to rotate from my hips and my core effectively is being in a strong base where I have weight loaded on my back leg and I'm trying to transfer that weight to my front leg. So I need strong legs and I need a strong core. So those should be absolute pillars of whatever you were trying to accomplish in the gym as a QB. Doing squats, any type of core work, single leg squats, pistol squats, all those things will translate directly to your on-field play. Now, rule number 4 as a beginner quarterback is you need to have a perfect throwing base. So the base that I love to try to replicate or love to try to teach is a 60-40 or 70-30 base. Now, here's my reasoning behind that. So I always say that you want to get to a position called being stacked. That means your head, your knee, and your foot on your throwing side are stacked on top of each other, because when you have your weight loaded onto your back leg like this, and it shouldn't be like this like squat where your knees going past your toes, you want to try to keep your shin ultimately straight. It's like a shift back. The reason why we keep that 60 to 70% on my back leg and I want to be light on my front foot is so when I take a step to the target, I could take that 60 or 70% and transfer it to my front leg. And that weight transfer, when it's done at the right time, we're going to talk about that as that video goes on, is what will help us get more power on the ball and make us a more efficient passer. We're actually using our legs and our hips and our core properly. Now, a lot of guys like to say, oh, well, you want to be in a 50-50 base, right? So if I'm in a 50-50 base where I'm here and I got 50 on my back leg, 50 on my front leg, if I take a step and my weight shoots through a little bit early, my back hip and my back leg get left behind and I'm throwing this thing more upper half. So we want to try to have 60 to 70% on my back leg so that weight transfer can be more effective in my throw. Now, the next rule that beginner quarterbacks need to follow is do not push to create your front stride. So a lot of people will get to that 60-70% weight on their back leg base, or they're 60-40, 70-30. But what happens is that when they go to take a stride to the target, as they step, all of their weight shifts forward at the exact same time. And that will prevent us from getting to a spot called dissociation. Dissociation is how quarterbacks generate power. That's when your hips and your core actually matter in the throwing motion, and it creates something called torque. So let's explain how that works. So we want to have that 60 to 70% on my back leg so I could transfer it, obviously, but I don't want to transfer it all at once. Even if I take a short step, a lot of guys transfer all this weight, and that does not allow them to keep their upper body and their shoulders back in their throwing motion, which prevents them from having a chain reaction or a whipping effect for power on the ball. So whenever I take a step to my target, if I'm throwing, the step needs to be separate from the transfer. I want to step, but I don't want any weight to shift. And it's a split second difference, you guys. I want to step, I want my hands to go back, I want my front shoulder to rotate slightly, and how I get to that position is by keeping weight back. If I shift all my weight forward, I can't rotate my shoulders back even if I wanted to, so my shoulders end up coming through before my hip does, and that's where QBs lose power and put stress on their arm. If they keep their weight on their back leg, see how much easier it is to rotate my shoulders? If I step and keep my weight back, I can rotate my shoulders. Now, let's transfer the weight. Let's take that 60 and shift it through, and my hip goes through before the arm. That creates that whipping effect, which will help us get more distance and more velocity on that ball. So make sure, guys, we're not pushing to create that front stride. Now, if you're a youth quarterback or new to the quarterback position, rule number 6, please do not play 7-on-7 and make that the only thing that you do in the offseason. Here's why. Now, I know 7-on-7 is a popular thing, and a lot of youth quarterbacks will play 7-on-7, and I think there's a time and a place for it. I think in high school it's better. I think at a youth age you shouldn't even be doing it because you're just creating bad habits for yourself. Let's say you're a quarterback, right? Because this is how 7-on-7 goes nowadays, and I think it has a lot to do with money. I think a lot of these organizations have these different club teams and travel teams so they could just take a bunch of money from the parents throughout the entire year, and they pitch it like, oh, we're helping your kid develop, we're helping them do this, we're helping them do that. At the quarterback position, you'd be way better off doing the boring stuff, taking that money and investing in maybe some private trainer that's local to you, or just maybe some type of online course that could help you out to be able to work on repping out your mechanical sequence and the mechanical problems that you have in your motion. Because guys, like we talked about in the beginning of this, it takes 1,000 reps to break a bad habit. It takes 10,000 reps to master a bad habit. But I didn't mention this, it's 1,000 reps in a row, 10,000 reps in a row. So imagine this, let's say on Monday you're working on your mechanics, but you have a really bad habit. Let's say you drop the ball really low and you have this long release. So on Monday you do 100 reps of just you being really tight with your motion. Okay, great, that's 100 reps, but the problem's not solved yet. So let's say on Tuesday and Wednesday you have 7-on-7 practice. You can't think about your motion, you can't think about your mechanics while you're in the middle of a dang practice because you got to throw to receivers, you got maybe, you know, in some cases, some guys who play flag, they got a pass rush coming on, they're worried about timing, they're worried about reads, so you can't think about your motion, guys. So guess what happens? You have 100 reps of the bad habit again. That negates the 100 good reps that you had. So I don't like 7-on-7 for guys that struggle mechanically. That time period, like January all the way till probably May, should be solely mechanics. And then maybe May to July, you play some 7-on-7 to get back into the swing of things competition-wise. But guys, you're better off as a quarterback working on those mechanics, especially if you're a youth quarterback, especially if you're a beginner quarterback, because again, it takes 1,000 reps to break a bad habit and 10,000 reps to master a skill. Now also, fellas, the quarterback position is not just about the on-field skills. It's about the mental side of the game as well. By mental side of the game, I mean reading defenses and understanding defensive coverages. So if you guys want to learn how you can read defenses as a quarterback, check out that second link in the description below where you could get access to over 500 different videos that I myself have made, all based on reading defenses from a QB's point of view. We put plays of film, like college film, high school film, college film, up on a screen. We're drawing on the screen, highlighting the defensive coverages, what quarterbacks should be looking for, how to think about things pre-snap, the work. So if you guys want to improve your reading defense's ability, check out that second link in that description below. Now, rule number 7, if you are a beginner quarterback, is that it does not matter what foot you have up in your shotgun stance when you're taking a snap. Now, I will say this, if you're on a team that goes under center, you want to have your non-dominant foot back. So let's say I'm under center taking a snap from like a center under, and I have my right foot up and my left foot back because I'm a right-handed quarterback. The reason why I do that is when I take my first step of my drop, since my left foot is already back, I'm getting away from my center faster. A lot of guys, if you take an under center snap and your left foot's here, the first step of a 3-step drop or a 5-step drop is here. But if I leave my left foot in the ground like this, I'm gonna get stepped on and I'm not getting as much depth. So the only time that you would have a specific foot back would be under center. Now, if you're a left-handed quarterback, for example, you would have your right foot back. So when you get up into your drop, you actually get away and you're not gonna get stepped on from your center. But if we're in shotgun, guys, it's really up to you and it's what's ever comfortable. I know a lot of guys that like to have a neutral stance. I was always a left foot back guy because that's how I was trained, was under center. And then I know some guys nowadays who go right foot back and they just shuffle into their drop and throw. So guys, don't be so caught up in your stance. Whatever's the most comfortable is what I want you to do in shotgun. And then under center, you obviously have to have the non-dominant foot back. Now, rule number 8 for beginner quarterbacks is understand that drops and footwork in the pocket will always change. So the traditional 3-step and 5-step quarterback footwork game is not necessarily the same anymore. So for example, a regular 3-step drop under center would be set, go, 1, 2, 3. You would take 2 more for a 5-step. But nowadays in college and in the NFL, you're seeing a lot of different quarterbacks work shuffle footwork. You're seeing some quarterbacks work back pedal drops. Footwork is constantly changing, and my biggest piece of advice to you is you have to do what your coach for your team, your high school team, your college team wants you to do, but also you got to do what's most comfortable for you. So with my quarterbacks, I work a lot of different things. A lot of times I'll ask my quarterbacks like, hey, what type of footwork do they want you to take? I'm never one that's going to force a drop on them. I'm not like, hey, you must take a 3-step drop. That's what I would say if you don't know what to do. But if you're comfortable with the shuffle drop, do it. If you're comfortable with the back pedal drop, do it. It's about comfortability, especially if your coach doesn't care. Back when I played, my coaches, they freaking cared. It was like if I took like a 3-step drop and a hitch when I was supposed to just take a 3-step drop and throw, they would have a problem. I would get a minus on film, which means a negative score. So nowadays, you hear this, I ask my quarterbacks and they're like, oh, my coach doesn't really care. So if you're comfortable doing a shuffle and throwing or a shuffle, hitch up and throw, that is totally fine. I recommend finding something that's comfortable for you, but make sure that your coach is okay with it.